In the 1960s, somewhere in Germany, among the staff of a German administration office is the son of a brewer. His name is Nikolaus Luhmann. He went to law school, but he has chosen to be a public servant. He had a 9-to-5 shift, and when he came home, he started to do what he liked most, reading and following his diverse interests in philosophy, organizational theory, and sociology. One day, he put some of his thoughts together into a manuscript and handed it over to Helmut Schelsky, one of the most influential sociologists in Germany. Schelsky took it home, read what this academic outsider had written, and contacted Luhmann. He suggested that he should become a professor of sociology in the newly founded University of Bielefeld. As attractive and prestigious as this position was, Luhmann wasn't a sociologist. He didn't have the formal qualifications required even to become an assistant for a sociology professor in Germany. But it did not stop Luhmann. He put together his thoughts once again on a doctoral thesis and the habilitation thesis in less than a year, while taking class in sociology. Shortly after, he was chosen to become professor of sociology at the University of Bielefeld, a position he would hold for the rest of his life. In 30 years, he published 58 books and hundreds of articles. This makes almost 2 books a year. How can a person be so focused and productive, studying and writing so much in 30 years of career? Well, he has a secret. Notes. Lots of them. In today's video, we'll talk about the Luhmann's method, and it will be based on the book How to Take Smart Notes by Zulkan Ahrens. Hey guys, Yamani Baran here, and welcome to our channel. The book How to Take Smart Notes presents the method developed by Nikolaus Luhmann. The secret for Luhmann being so productive was a system called Zettelkasten. Zettelkasten is a German word for something like a slipbox or a box of notes. Luhmann's slipbox stored all kinds of notes that he thought useful, like book notes, personal thoughts, conversation with colleagues. All information that kept his attention became a note and was stored in the slipbox. Luhmann's slipbox contained about 19,000 notes. So how is this works? The Luhmann's slipbox might look a little bit complex at the first sight, but I try to bring the fundamentals of this method, which are: take notes, put the notes in a slipbox, add some context, create connections, and put the slipbox to work. So the first step is taking notes from any relevant information that you want to keep and use it later for some purpose. To register these notes, you can use a notebook, a piece of paper, a napkin, your app note, anything that is easy to write and preferably accessible at any time. But the key, according to the author, is this: these notes must be written in your own words. This forces us to think about what we read and check upon our understanding. It is the simplest test. We tend to think we understand what we read until we try to rewrite it in our own words. You can think that this step costs time, but actually you are saving time for your future self. As the author says, if you want to learn something for the long run, you have to write it down. If you want to really understand something, you have to translate it into your own words. So yeah, I encourage you to not just highlight what caught your attention when you were reading, but also translate it into your own words. Compare it with what you just read and see how it goes. By doing this, we not only get a better sense of our ability to understand, but also increase our ability to clearly and concisely express our understanding. Try to not fool yourself here reading incomprehensible words, for example, because it will be detected in the next steps. The second point is put the notes in a slipbox. Now that you are taking notes, you need to store them in one place. Luhmann had basically 2 kinds of slipboxes. One for bibliographic notes and another for the permanent notes that would be stored in his main slipbox. As Luhmann said, I make a note with the bibliographic details. On the backside, I would write on the page X is this, on the page Y is that. And then it goes into bibliographic slipbox where I collect everything I read. He would read what he noted down during the day, think about its relevance for his own lines of thought, and write about it, filling his main slipbox with what he called a permanent note. Here it seems that the process was: Luhmann took several notes throughout the day. They were fleeting notes. Then a selection were made in these fleeting notes to become a permanent note or permanent notes. And these permanent notes were stored in the slipbox. Luhmann used a physical slipbox you can make your own, but of course you can use a digital one. There are platforms that allow you to store information as the model of the slipbox, such as Zotero, Obsidian, Roam, and Notion, depending on how you use it. The third step is add some context. The importance here is that you can organize your notes in some kind of context. This will prevent your slipbox from becoming just an accumulator of notes, which will be extremely difficult to retrieve and use information when you really need it. Luhmann adopted an ID system. The numbers and letters were only used to designate how the notes were related. For example, if I wrote 3 notes, one of them saying that Luhmann used 3 types of notes, another one saying about the definition of a fleeting note, and the third one saying that the notes must be connected, I could arrange them in this way. The first one can be addressed by number 1, the second 1A, because understand they are in the same line of thought, and the third as 2, because this one I think that can introduce another sequence of ideas. And I would put them in that order inside the slipbox. And why is that? Floating notes will tend to get lost. You'll probably forget them, or you end up with a bunch of notes in a totally disorganized way, and it will be a chaos to try to find something there. You can create another types of IDs. The most important thing is organize these notes in a way that would be easy for you to retrieve them later, and also build some sort of logical link between them. As the author says, nodes are only as valuable as the node and reference networks they are embedded in. The next step is create connections. This is the crucial part. Once you organize your nodes, it's time to create connections between them. Imagine that I wrote one note about interruptions. Like, interruptions are productivity killers, from the Motivation Myth. I also have another note that I had already written about multitasking. Psychologists who interviewed the multitaskers found that those who multitasked felt more productive, but their productivity actually decreased a lot. These 2 notes are in different contexts, but now I can create a link between them. I can even create another note like actions that hinder productivity, interruptions, multitasking, and other things that can be added in the future. This is important because the inner connections in your slipbox will not just provide isolated facts, but actually lines of developed thoughts. For example, if you are reading a book about how to build habits, it will be very difficult that you only find information about habits. Maybe the author, for the purpose of better explanations, touches in other subjects like time management, motivation, and so on. If you take notes about this other information, you can link them if you already have other notes about these subjects, or you can start to build a new chain of thoughts and ideas which will be added by other notes that you will collect in the future. This is the great power of the slipbox, the compounding return of useful information. As the author says, if you practice learning not as a pure accumulation of knowledge, but as an attempt to build up a lattice work of theories and mental models to which information can stick, we enter a virtuous circle where learning facilitates learning. The last step is put the slipbox to work. This is the outcome of the slipbox. Every time we make a note, we also made a decision about the aspects of a task we regarded as relevant for our long-term thinking and relevant for the development of our ideas. We constantly make explicit how ideas and information connect with each other and turn them into literal connections between our notes. But in this step, the perspective changes. It's time to develop one argument and bring it into the linearity of a manuscript, a lesson, a post for a blog, a script for a YouTube video, a chapter for a book. It will be like we're solving a puzzle, putting the pieces that best fit together. And if you finish one project and moving on to another, you don't have to start from scratch. Look at your slipbox and see what information you already have to work with. So this is the method that Luhmann used to write a bunch of books and articles. As the author says, the slipbox is not a collection of notes. Working with it is less about retrieving specific notes and more about being pointed to relevant facts and generating insight by letting ideas mingle. Its usability grows with its size, not just linearly but exponentially. If you want to know how I'm adapting a Sleepbox on Notion's platform, please comment below. This method might cost some time at the beginning. You need to figure out how it works for you. You will have your learning curve, but definitely pays off in the long run.